Okay, let's take a look at your assignment sheet for your report. So, your report is worth 30% of your grade in the class. We often have a presentation component for this fall class with fall break in there. I just don't think we're going to be able to do the paper justice and also create a presentation. So I put in your content for this week, this module where this assignment sheet is being presented, that we're just going to focus on the paper. So as you can see, this is called the final recommendation report structure. And so I'm going to tell you the different parts of the report. So as you learned in last week's module, there are informal reports in business and formal reports. And one of the big differences between informal and formal reports was like length and complexity. So we most often see table of contents, title page, glossary, list of figures, appendix A, appendix B. We usually see those items in more of a formal report. And there's a lot of different prefatory materials you can have. As you can see in our formal report, we do have some prefatory materials. We have 4 to be specific. So you are going to create a title page, and it's going to have what is called a descriptive abstract at the bottom, which is just like a 3-sentence summary written in third person of what happens in your paper. But as I say here, I'm going to post instructions on how to write that later. You don't write a summary on something until it exists, right? Then you are going to have a table of contents, and you are going to have a list of illustrations, or you can call it a list of figures. It's basically that you're required to have a bunch of pictures in this report, and then they're all going to be labeled figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, and then you'll create what is called a list of illustrations or list of figures, which is just a list of all of the pictures, all the figures that you have in your report so people can see what page those are on. And then you'll have an executive summary. And this is another summary, like the descriptive abstract, although this one is 1 page long. You usually need about a page to do it single space, but don't make it any longer. And we talk about executive summaries in the coming weeks, but the reason why they exist is there are summaries for executives. So higher ups that don't have time to read your report but have a say in whether or not it gets approved funding might only read your summary, and so they actually are really important documents in business, and we usually keep them to 1 page so they're easy to distribute. So you will create all of these prefatory materials, or sort of like papers within the paper, each smaller, but not till later. So where you're really going to be focusing all of your ideas and your research is going to happen here in the report discussion. So you don't actually have a section in your paper called report discussion. I'm just saying this is me discussing what's in your report now. So you do have some required headings in this report, and then you have lots of headings that you'll be making up on your own. So I include things that are headings, like you're going to have an introduction. Some people call it a purpose, and either of those is fine. You are going to have a business profile, and I do clarify this should be a heading. And then I say you're going to create all the headings in the body of the paper, because this is where you talk about your unique ideas and the research that you've uncovered. And then that's the bulk of the paper. So there's usually about 5 pages of single space writing where you're creating your own headings and presenting your own research. And I will come back to this. I'm just giving you like an overview, like a macro look, and then we'll go micro. And then as you're ready to wrap up the report, then you have 3 sections at the end of your report that are required. One of them is called a recommendation section. This is just a summary of all your suggestions. So summary means no new information, right? Because in the body of your report, you're going to be like, hey, we're going to talk about some problems and our ideas on how to solve them, whether you do it in this whole problem solution, or problem solution, which I'll come back to this. But what I'm trying to say here is that you'll have already discussed your recommendations/solutions in detail with research in the report body. So the recommendation section, I tell students, is almost like businesses like lists, like task lists. So it's sort of like a to-do list, and it literally is just a bulleted list. So this is where you get to like show off your I know how to create bulleted lists properly skills from earlier in the semester, and you just create a bulleted list of all the things the business has to do in order for them to successfully solve the problem. Then you're going to have a budget section. And hear me out on this. The budget section is not what it's going to cost them to hire you to do anything, because that was already pitched in the proposal. In the real world, you would have given that proposal to the business and you would have been like, hey, you've got issues. I know how to solve them. I've got a great team. We know what we're doing. It's going to cost us, X amount of dollars, but we will investigate your problems and write you a report suggesting how to improve those problems. And then it's basically like a job application letter. Like I said in your content ages ago, we were talking about proposals. You're basically proposing that you can do something for them and that they should hire you temporarily. And then they will either accept or reject your proposal. Now, you've already been, and you're saying in the proposal, we will deliver to you this report where we analyze your issues and give you some good ideas. And then once we give you the report, you give us the money. So in real life, a budget in the report doesn't have anything to do with you, because once you hand the report over to them, you guys may never talk again. Like, there's a rare there's rare instances where you may be writing a report and then also some branch of your business or some aspect of what you do also can solve the problem for them, that you can consult and you can solve. But we're just simply looking at this like you guys are a consulting firm, okay? Like maybe that helps to keep it in mind. And you proposed that you could consult on this issue, write a report to them, and then there you go. So you may be like, what is the budget then? The budget is, what is it going to cost this business that you gave the report to hire people to do your recommendations? So what is it going to cost them to hire a social media marketing manager? What is it going to cost them to hire a web designer or UX specialist? What is it going to cost them to retrain their employees, to create the recipe cards and the other quality control things you're putting in place in their coffee shop? Like whatever you wrote in your report, all of your amazing ideas, excuse me, they are only as good as they are financially viable or feasible. So you in the budget are going to be like, it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z to do everything we recommend in this report. And then, essentially in the conclusion, you're going to be like, but it's going to be so worth it. So the budget is what it would cost the business to follow your suggestions to fix, whether it's the social media or the website or whatever it is. And then the conclusion is just you wrapping it up, being like, you guys are great. We love you. We hope that you find our suggestions valuable. We think the investment is worth it. Please reach out if you have any questions. And it's like just a few sentences long. So that's the overview of the report. Now, where most of your grade is earned is actually here in this headings area, or the quote unquote body of your report. And I kind of presented this last week where I'm like, hey, in a recommendation report, you talk about the what, why, and how. And it might be helpful for you to keep that in mind. I do not want you to create any headings that say what, why, or how, because those are way too vague. But it's just a scaffolding of a cognitive scaffolding, or like a way that you can look at this. So you're going to present this business. What is the problem that you see? As I mentioned before, when you're writing your proposals, you need to pick a narrow problem like website design or social media, but not both, because you won't be able to write a good paper on both of those. You'll just do a cursory, superficial job on both, because this isn't like a 40-page long report. So one thing, is it their marketing, is it their social media, is it their website, is it none of the coffee drinks are ever tasting the same? How do you solve that? And remember, you could have looked at like Google reviews to get ideas on that, or maybe you went or worked for that business, or maybe you just checked out their social media and you found it lacking. Maybe you just looked at their website and found it lacking. So you're going to establish this problem in the beginning of the report, because you have to establish it's an issue before you can get them to listen to your solutions on it. Then you're going to be like, hey, you guys need to care about this. It's affecting your bottom line. And the reason why you need to do this is because if they have a problem and they haven't done something about it, either A, they don't realize how big of a deal it is, or B, they don't think the money it takes to fix it would be worth it in their ROI, which you're going to show them that it is worth it. So why are these issues important and worth addressing? And then how to solve it. So, you're not going to have problems and solutions as headings, but again, it's sort of a way to look at this, like you're going to give them solutions to their problems. So an outline structure, and I say outline meaning like cognitive outline, not actual headings outline, is, are you going to present all of their problems and establish why they are a big deal, like for the first half of your paper, and really get their buy-in, and then spend the second half of your paper solving each of those problems? That's one way of doing it. And then some students like to be like, okay, no, we're going to talk about web design, and we're going to talk about their navigation in web design first, and we're going to solve that navigation issue with some suggestions based on research. Then we're going to talk about their color branding issues on their website. That's the next problem. And then we're going to solve their color branding issues. Then we're going to talk about, like, underdeveloped content or something like, or broken links or whatever might be the third problem in the website, and then you're going to solve it. So you could piece it down like that and just start off the report and be like, your website's not great and here's why, and then take it one by one. Or you can be like, the website's not great, you've got bad navigation, you've got underdeveloped content, you've got like problems with your color and font consistency and branding, and you spend a good part of your report establishing that, and then you solve it. So it's up to you guys how you do it, but those are the two most likely ways you're going to approach this. And do keep in mind, as you start to write your report, all of your ideas, like both here are the problems and here are the solutions, are going to be supported with research, because you have to show the screenshots of the social media, not doing its job, no followers, bad content, not, inconsistent filters, whatever. You need to show the screenshots of the social media. You need to show the screenshots of the website. You need to show the Google reviews about people, and their inconsistency with quality, or taste on the coffee drinks or whatever it is. You need to establish with real research that the problem exists. And then when you give them the solutions, since you are a researcher and a writer and an academic, the solutions are also supported with research. You can't be like, I don't know, I just feel like you need to do something here. Or you can take my word for it as a UCCS student or as a consultant. Like, in the real world, you may have enough professional experience that you can use yourself as an expert testimony, but it's always, always, always better to, bring in other voices to support your own, even when you are an expert. So in your solutions, you will have, this social media expert said this, and on this website with this article title, we saw this, and, you're going to show research for all of this here. Okay, so that's an overview of the report. There are some extra things to keep in mind. You're going to write it in a formal, professional tone. You're going to do this in MLA or APA or Chicago or AP. I really don't care what style guide you pick. Pick the one that serves you, that you know. I assume you guys know style guides by the time you come to class. You are going to have 3 data graphics, so be looking for pie charts and bar graphs and tables and things. Your budget section will require a table, so that is one of them. So you really just need to find 2 to fulfill this requirement. And then you do need 2 required back matter items or appendices. So they're called back matter items because they are literally attached to the back of the report, and they are things that like somehow enhance the report, but they're like too big to drop in, like it's not just a pie chart or something. So I will talk about these later, like in the next module. You don't have to worry about them right now, but one of your appendix items, Appendix A, your first one, is going to be your works cited page or your bib, depending on if you do AP or MLA. And then you have to come up with just one of these, which is your Appendix B, your second appendix item. And that can be a lot of different things. Like for that coffee example, one group actually did a coffee shop that like could not make their drinks the same way twice. And so their Appendix B item was to create, like they created like a couple recipe cards for 2 of the drinks. And then as a part of their solutions, they were like, you need to have recipe cards next to the espresso machines so that people are consistently making them. And we've created example recipe cards for you. See Appendix B, the back of the report. They go to the Appendix B and they can see the cards and use them as templates. I remember another group did like a t-shirt design and a business card redesign because they wanted to rebrand a business. Somebody else with like other things people have done, like website design, like they've sketched out using Canvas or whatever, like a revamped homepage and took a picture of it, and that was their Appendix B, etc. So a lot of different options there. And then just some general things like reports going to be about this long. You need to have 5 sources. You want to make it look pretty, all that stuff. So, All right, don't hesitate to reach out. You're going to be creating a report draft one, which is just a completion draft, which is several pages of writing. And I'm going to tell you which headings or sections you need to have in there. Spend a lot of your time getting your ideas out in order. Like, what are you doing? Problem, or solution, problem, solution. Like, what are you doing? Get some ideas on page. And then our draft two, we're going to actually start getting more serious about structure and development.